It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming for Thursday, September 4th. I'm Wendy Kaur, bringing you headlines from the Cowboy State Daily Newsroom, brought to you by Wyoming Interventional and Vascular Associates. WEVA offers the best solution for treating tired, aching, and swollen legs at Wyoming's only IAC-accredited vein facility. With virtually no downtime and minimal risks, if you're ready for relief, see what WEVA can do for you. Schedule a consultation at caspermedicalimaging.net/WEVA. Wildfire is recognized to have a cleansing and renewing role in nature, but allowing it to take its natural course is considered too risky in Wyoming. Cowboy State Daily's Mark Hines reports that most state and federal agencies in charge of public lands have a standing policy to go after every blaze with everything they've got as soon as possible.
The Wyoming State Forester, she mentioned on our radio news program recently that that agency has a zero tolerance policy towards wildfire. In other words, there's no let it burn policy in their playbook. Fire springs up on their land, they're going to go try to put it out. The only place where a fire might be allowed to burn naturally is in a wilderness area under the U.S. Forest Service jurisdiction. The potential problem with that, as we saw with the Pack Trail fire last year, sometimes those natural fires can blow out of or escape the boundaries of the wilderness and burn a lot of the forest around them.
But no agency or landowner is expected to stand alone. When a fire breaks out, it typically doesn't matter whose land it's on. Firefighters from the local, county, state, and federal levels all pitch in to put it out. Wyoming and 45 other states and territories are being warned against keeping what the Trump administration calls gender ideology in their sex education curricula, on the threat of losing federal money. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that a group of Wyoming Republican lawmakers have publicly asked Governor Mark Gordon to explain the curriculum President Donald Trump's administration is now demanding be removed.
On the one hand, we have the Freedom Caucus riled up like we are out of compliance with Trump's agency and we're touting this gender ideology and how is this okay, Wyoming? And then on the other hand, you have Governor Mark Gordon's spokesman, like the Department of Health just had to choose from federally approved materials under the Biden administration. According to the governor's spokesman, it's not like there was some sinister social agenda here. It's just Wyoming trying to keep up with federal grant requirements.
Gordon's office said the state is being whiplashed from the expectations of one federal administration to the next. Wyoming Republican U.S. Representative Harriet Hageman took to the House floor Wednesday to advocate for Congressional Review Act resolutions that would overturn 3 Bureau of Land Management resource management plans. Hageman argued that the Biden-era policies amount to mineral withdrawals in disguise that restrict energy development across millions of acres. However, Cowboy State Daily's David Madison reports that the novel use of the Congressional Review Act to challenge land management plans has drawn significant opposition from legal scholars and environmental groups that warn that the action could destabilize decades of federal land management policy.
This is a big deal when it comes to how Bureau of Land Management lands are managed. Critics say they're taking the management out of the BLM. Proponents like Representative Hageman say this is long overdue. We need to clear the way for more energy development on public land.
Changing restrictive federal land use policies has been a long-standing priority for Wyoming leaders across all levels of government who argue that such plans hamper the state's energy-dependent economy. State Representative Bill Allemond of Casper now goes by the nickname Mr. No Nuclear. It's a title he earned from his fellow representatives due to his fierce opposition against plans by energy developer Radiant Nuclear to bring nuclear micro-reactors and their spent nuclear waste near Bar None. Cowboy State Daily's Jackson Walker reports that Allemond is just one of a growing number of voices trying to make themselves heard in the debate, which most recently spiraled into a public shouting match during a Bar None Town Council meeting Tuesday night.
At a meeting of the Bar None Town Council on Tuesday night, we saw State Representative Bill Allemond come in and deliver testimony to Mayor Peter Boyer. And that sort of sparked an argument. Things got very fiery, and the two are not on great terms. This argument that they're having stemmed from a nuclear project that is trying to move into the area, and it's going to be storing nuclear waste near Bar None. So Mayor Peter Boyer, he's very much in favor of this. He thinks it's going to help elevate not only his city, but the state. And Representative Allemand is almost on the other side saying, we can't support this because it's nuclear waste.
Bar None Mayor Peter Boyer, according to Allemand, had previously been his good friend and had even served on Allemand's election committee. Now, in the wake of his nuclear advocacy, Allemand says Boyer won't return his calls. I'll be back with more news right after this.
First Northern Bank of Wyoming has been a pillar and a cornerstone in our community since 1885.
It's the oldest continuing operating bank in existence in Wyoming today.
I see First Northern Bank make a positive difference in our community.
They're always in the list of sponsors.
Our people deliver the absolute best service that you can find.
Uranium Energy Corporation has announced plans for a state-of-the-art uranium refining facility that would be the nation's largest. Cowboy State Daily's David Madison spoke to a representative from the company who said that Wyoming is on the short list to be home to the processing complex.
I spoke to the vice president from a major nuclear symposium in London, England today, and he announced that Wyoming is one of a few states they're considering to site what is essentially a uranium refinery, the same way crude oil gets changed into gasoline. It's this refining step that there's a bottleneck on currently globally. We've depended on Russia and other countries to get us through this step in the nuclear fuel cycle. This next one that Uranium Energy Corp wants to build will be the biggest one in the United States, and it could be in Wyoming.
Once the new facility is complete, no matter where it's located, it will likely help supply the refined atomic ingredients needed to fuel every type of reactor, including microreactors like those Radiant hopes to manufacture in Bar None. A 46-year-old Casper man charged with starting 3 fires around the city since May and suspected in others allegedly told police he turns to arson when he gets mad at his landlord over having to pay rent. Dallas Ray Smith appeared Tuesday in Casper Circuit Court on 2 counts of 4th-degree arson stemming from 2 fires he's accused of starting Friday. Cowboy State Daily's Dale Killingbeck reports that if convicted of all the charges, Smith could face over 20 years in jail.
He's been charged with 3 so far, and the police are saying that he may be charged with some others as well. But what he is charged with is setting a fire inside a building where homeless people were living there. And the reason he does this, he told police, is because when he goes to pay rent, the landlord doesn't treat him well. So he gets angry and he has to go start a fire.
According to court documents, Smith told investigators he typically gathers leaves together and lights them on fire. Although the fires scare him, he said they provide some relief to emotions he doesn't otherwise know how to deal with. A cosmetic surgeon who worked formerly for a clinic in Casper denies wrongdoing in a lawsuit brought by 2 women accusing him of leaving them disfigured and sickened in 2023. Afton Jennings and Casey Duncan in July sued Dr. Christopher Stewart, a cosmetic surgeon who previously worked for Casper-based New Beautiful You. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that the plaintiffs claimed they suffered devastating outcomes after Stewart performed cosmetic surgeries on them, including infection, necrosis, permanent disfigurement, and loss of bodily function.
You have these women claiming that they were disfigured badly. One saying she lost her nipple after just such infection that they had to put maggots in her breast, in this ruptured open breast, to feed off of the necrotic tissue. And, the other one saying she had a mommy makeover and she was just racked with fever and chills and issues and ruptures and problems for a long time after that.
In a court filing Friday, Dr. Stewart denied that his actions or inactions breached the applicable medical standard of care or resulted in the women's alleged injuries or damages. The case is ongoing. And with a key component of the 2020 Great American Outdoors Act set to expire at the end of this month, the U.S. House Committee on Natural Resources is set to meet Friday in Grand Teton National Park to consider whether to continue funding infrastructure in national parks. The committee, which includes Wyoming Republican Representative Harriet Hageman, is scheduled to hold an oversight hearing at the Jenny Lake Visitor Center. Cowboy State Daily's Mark Hines reports that the main topic will likely be the Legacy Restoration Fund section of the Great American Outdoors Act, which was signed into law by President Trump in 2020.
There's actually two parts to it. One part is geared towards the acquisition of new waters and new lands. A big chunk of that money was used, for example, to secure public access to the Kelly parcel just outside of Teton National Park. The other part of the funding that goes into infrastructure and repairs in national parks and some other federal lands, that had a 5-year time limit on it.
Hageman told Cowboy State Daily that the purpose of the hearing is to scrutinize the Great American Outdoors Act and its effectiveness so far. She said questionable projects were authorized under the act during the Biden administration. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by clicking on the daily newsletter button at cowboystatedaily.com. And you can watch this newscast every day by clicking subscribe on our YouTube channel, or you can listen to us on your favorite podcast app. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Wendy Core for Cowboy State Daily.